Thank you very much, Daniel, for this very kind introduction. My name is Tomitsch. I'm a lecturer in the Design Lab, and it's a great pleasure to be talking tonight. And it's also very exciting for us as a team to talk about this project tonight, since we've spent quite a significant amount of time over the past few months working on this particular installation. I would also like to amplify or confirm what Daniel was just saying and encourage students to really consider participating in these installations, festivals like Beauty and Sculpture at Sea. It's a great opportunity in Sydney, and Sydney in particular is a city that offers these opportunities, and it's just a really great way to share your work in the public sphere. Now, this project that we're going to talk about tonight is very particular because all of us are coming from very different backgrounds. And it's only because of this that the project has been possible or has evolved to the kind of project it will be when it launches at Vivid in 2 weeks. And this is quite significant because, as Brian Eno was saying, there is not necessarily this idea of a genius, but it's more about the right people coming together at the right moment, at the right time, and collaborating together on a project. That's how big ideas are being born. And in a way, producing such an interactive installation as the one that we're talking about tonight is very much like producing a movie. As you all know, a movie brings together a lot of people. It requires a lot of people to actually produce the kind of experience that we see in the end on the movie screen. So with this, I would like to hand over to Miriama, who is actually from the Sydney Conservatorium of Music, and she will introduce how we arrived at the project.
It all started when AMP approached us about doing something quite different with their facade on Circular Quay. In the past, Vivid has lit the building, but it's been very static, and AMP were very interested in putting something interactive and dynamic where the public would be drawn to that space. So, together with my brother who works for AMP, which was a nice kind of connection, and with pulling in this team, we were able to bring together this project. And the brief for the project was to transform AMP building into a musical instrument for collaborative play. So that's how the whole thing kicked off. The building was actually the first skyscraper in Sydney. 1962 was erected. So we also had that to kind of play with, the first skyscraper. And it's a heritage building, and it now forms part of the Illuminati series for Vivid, that is that foreshore space. AMP has its own festival called Amplify, which runs concurrently with Vivid. And the theme for that festival, the Amplify Festival is really about business and innovation and bringing that together. And the theme for their Amplify Festival this year was called Shift Happened, Transformation Required. And it's about kind of these disruptive forces coming together and kind of and forcing people to kind of think about different ways of working together, about collaboration and about transformation. So those were kind of the key themes that we were working with. And also that idea of transformation was kind of embodied in the metaphor of the origami crane, which you can see there. So that kind of key message and that metaphor of the origami crane became kind of the basis on which we built our project. The team combines interaction designers, composers, musicians, and electronic artists all coming together to make the piece that we've called Solstice LAMP. which is this dance of sound and visuals amplified through interactivity.
So what you can see here is an artistic illustration of our concept, which was actually done by a graduate student from this faculty. Sean O'Brien helped us with this. And what we can see in this illustration, it was a very, very early mock-up, and we've obviously evolved from there, but what you can see there are the basic interactions that form the foundation of this very interdisciplinary, highly interactive musical piece. So the concept was that people in the space in front of the building can produce a digital shadow, and that digital shadow produces a soundscape. So it produces, it triggers a certain musical track that people can experience right in the space, and it responds to people moving in the space as well as to people forming groups. So if you form a group with several people, that will produce a different kind of soundscape. And then that music launches onto the building, and it moves up the building where it becomes these like playful blocks that then move up the building acting here as the instrument. And while those blocks move up the building, they transform into a second soundscape. And then those blocks are being transformed into cranes as well and fly off the top of the building. So that's kind of the poetics behind that piece. And as Miriama was saying, we are interaction designers, electronic artists, musicians, composers working together, but we're even now actually also working together with choreographers and looking at organizing dance performances. So professional dancers coming into the space and performing with this piece and producing music, actually using this building as a music instrument to produce music as well as a dance performance. And this work really, in a number of ways, combines the different backgrounds of all of us. So I've been doing research in the area of media facades for quite a while now, and the kind of media facades are large screen displays that we know from science fiction movies that once were only science fiction and now becoming increasingly reality. So we're seeing all these media facades emerging around the world, in particular in Asian countries. And I think it is our responsibility as designers and design researchers, as architects, to think about how these displays, how these screens can be used to transform the urban landscape into something that supports people in the city rather than just showing advertising. And that combined with considering the large amount of data that's being produced in the city and how we can use such displays in order to maybe visualize some of the data, like in this piece, which is a work that was done by Tim Arnold, and it visualizes Wi-Fi signals in the city. So they're using this technique called long exposure photography, which is a really smart way of showing something like Wi-Fi signals. It's an information that data that you can't usually see, but using a technique you can actually make it visible. Now this is something that is not actually real time, it's not actually there. It has to be, you have to produce these photographs and then we can appreciate it on the static image. But using advanced technologies, and the technologies that are increasingly coming into the market, we can also think about ways of producing such visualizations in real time. This is actually taken from a class that I'm teaching this semester, and a couple of our students in the program Design Computing, which is one of the programs that we teach in the faculty in the design lab. They're looking at the moment at the George Street precinct in the city, so the CBD area in the city, and looking at how we can use digital technologies to transform that particular urban space in order to address the big issues of urbanization, like sustainability, safety, public transport. And so this particular piece, what you can see here is a mock-up of the students were trying or brainstorming ideas of how they could use digital technologies and projection technologies to make railway square a safer area. So they found out in the user research that people tend to feel very unsafe in a railway square at night because it's quite a dark space. And so this mock-up here shows an idea where they would be using laser projectors and sensing devices to sense people in and project some sort of urban pets next to people walking through the space, and therefore hopefully making them feel more safer, but at the same time creating a kind of playful experience in that space. And we've worked on this kind of interfaces for a while. We ran a studio as part of our master program, the Master of Interaction Design and Electronic Arts, together with my colleague Rob Saunders in 2011, where we were looking at an then existing large public display in the city, a display that was in the CBD on one of the Australian off-grid grid stations. And our students were looking at how to transform such a display into an interactive experience, into an urban playground that provides people walking through this very mundane space during their everyday way to work or lunch, to engage into the moment of playfulness and maybe create opportunities for social encounters. And I'd like to introduce Luke Hespanhol onto the stage. So Luke is a former student of the Master of Interaction Design, Electronic Arts, and is now a PhD student in the design lab and also on the core team of the study project this year.
Well, thank you, Martin, for this introduction. So my research, as per Daniel's introduction, is on how to use electronic arts and in particular interactive technology to transform the urban space and to create special experiences for people in urban space. This was work that, as Martin was pointing out, that we developed as part of the installation studio in my very first semester of the MIEA program. And from the very beginning we noticed that one thing that underlines all design for public space is that you can't really control what you're designing for very much. So in particular there are elements that you can't really control, like people. Like we design for people and you can't really predict how they're going to behave on this space. So we came up, we didn't know that at the time, but all our considerations during the design process that the work needs to be elastic. Elastic in the sense that whatever we design, it had to adapt itself to the different conditions that we'd be exposed to. In particular, the size of the crowd that would be playing with the work. So this is the work we developed at that time. It's called Liquid Light. It has been exhibited in a few different venues since, and basically consisted of people interacting with the display. So they interacted with the camera, left the camera from position on the top of the display. They would walk in front of the display and they would see themselves like silhouettes, and they would be connected with those very luminous halos. And this work worked in two different levels. So one is the visual, and the other one was the audio level. And it was elastic in the sense that after a certain number of people being in a space, you couldn't really distinguish yourself on the image, or you couldn't hear yourself. You could hear the composition that the whole crowd was putting together. So as they moved on the screen, they would like playing digital virtual harp, pretty much. So the different strings as they moved across. And this was the background sound that was playing continuously, so like setting the tone for the interaction, so like very calming and very holistic piece of work. Last year we participated, we were invited to participate in Vivid for the first time, and this is the work we developed for Vivid last year in collaboration with some academics and also some students from the Illumination Design degree. And it was a quite successful collaboration. We put this very large-scale interactive sculpture in Circular Quay, that was just under the Cairo Expressway near the Circular Quay station, which is a very busy thoroughfare. So normally people just pass through that space, go into the train station, and they don't really stop on the place, they just go past. And our intention with this design was to make that otherwise neglected space a special place, to make people stop for a while and have some special experience. But we were very strongly briefed that we shouldn't make people stop too much because it was a very busy thoroughfare, so people should move seamlessly but still appreciate the work. So we came up with this sculpture which had no particular focal point like the previous one. There was no displays, there was nothing obviously interactive, but it was reactive to what people were doing. So we have a short video here to show, and I apologize for this bad quality of the video that was shot from a distance so that we didn't interfere with people doing anything. But you can see that as people move across the space and through and around the space, that causes some sort of digital wind on the work, and we have those LED lights playing from one side to the other, like polyvating the different parts of the sculpture. So, unlike the previous one, there was no obvious interaction, but it was still a generative piece of work transforming that particular urban space. Metastasis was another work we developed here in this faculty last year as part of the Bown symposium. And we tried to create a work that combined aspects from the previous one as I just showed. So it was intended to be a performative space again, in the sense that you are interacting in front of a display and seeing yourself, and whoever is behind you is watching you, but in an immersive environment. So it's a kind of different scenario again from the other two. It's a semi-public space. It was a gallery space originally. We also exhibited that in the Rocks at the end of last year as part of the end of year exhibition. And in both scenarios, there were very immersive spaces and created some sort of very personal experience. And that was, as I said, is a medium point between the other two. So it's too performative, but it's kind of generative in an ambient way. And again, we had very droning sounds accompanying that. So the sound is a very crucial element of the work, as we have found out throughout the course of my degree. There's some concerns that underlie all the work we do here. And one is, because of design for public space, we always are very aware of making that space special and social. So to create somehow, to use design to create conditions for people to come together in a different way that they normally wouldn't do in that particular space. So creating this space as a social experience. Design to create experiences that are goalless and playful. So, like for instance, creating soap bubbles. You do it without no particular purpose, it's just because it's kind of fun. And it's easy to learn, and if you walk in that space, there's nothing to learn. You just play immediately almost. So that's very important. It's very important because people don't like to feel frustrated when they try to do something in public and they can't. So that's a very important and often overlooked aspect of our work. And we also want to make it very immersive and immersive embodiment, as you say. So it's like you are in that space, you are surrounded by electronic art, and it's almost like you dress the space like a shirt. So you can see that there's all those other things around you, and you have an effect on that space. Wherever you do it, that has an impact. This is also very important.
And we wanted to show this music video for Nazar Think's song called Eclipse Blue, which was one of the inspirations for our own work. And it's a great example of how we can use new interactive technologies to create these very playful, immersive experiences. So you can see here two dancers, one behind the screen and one in front of the screen, and they're actually being tracked in real time. So what you see is live, it's not pre-recorded, pre-rendered, they're tracked in real time, and then they're tracking, and in combination with projection music creates this really playful and unseen, completely novel experience, and that's kind of the feeling that we're after as well, the kind of experience that we're after. And the great opportunity here with interactive technologies is also that we can now completely merge the physical and the digital. So we completely merge our physical movement in space with the digital experiences created generatively. And while this video is running in the background, I'd like to invite Miri back on stage, as well as Ollie, Bown, who is a lecturer in the design lab, to talk about their background and their inspirations to the work, and then also to introduce the musical aspects of the piece.
So all of those kind of explorations of trying to combine the digital with the physical and trying to map sounds to movement in a kind of organic way is something that I became quite curious about. About 10 years ago with a piece that I made for dance, interactive piece for dance. So with this piece, I made some, of course there's all this hardware you can buy now, but at the time it wasn't available, so we made some sensors, accelerometers that the dancer held in her hands, and so she could manipulate the sound of bird song in real time with her hands, and then so she's kind of moving to the dance and dancing to the music, and there's all of this sort of conflation of these different elements coming together. And what was at the time, thought quite exciting, but now looks kind of dated. But I'll just play you a very short excerpt. It's very short. So I just wanted to kind of show you, give you a little bit of background about my work, which kind of straddles the acoustic and the electronic. And I also do more straight ahead stuff, like write music for opera and things like that, but I have this interest in combining this digital world with the music one. So I'll hand over to Ollie now, who also has this interest.
So yeah. Hi there. My work is in composition, but also very based in the design lab, so very closely related to the interaction design world, and really exploring the kind of interactive potential and another keyword, generative potential of software to produce music and art and so on. So that's another theme I'd just like to bring into the mix. We don't have enough already. And in my work, I'm particularly interested in generativity from the point of view of being able to allow systems to do their own thing. One of the possibilities there is that you can start to work in a multiplicitous way. So this is an example of a work that I did with a Canadian singer called Erin G, called Animos. We built this system which just kind of is a well, we kind of, it's not an operating system, but a platform that we can use to just distribute audio and video onto multiple machines and make a chorus, and make that chorus either be controlled as an instrument or be doing its own thing and interacting in a distributed way. So you're getting a real chorus, as in there's variation of different elements happening. So that's one kind of interesting platform. Since we have so many computers in our building, we should use them for things like that. Another area is in the process of music production. So in my long-standing collaboration with my cousin Sam Britt from the UK, the band Icarus, we decided to make our last album an album in 1,000 variations. So instead of just producing a studio record, we produced a studio record with variation written into it, so that we could actually design that, and not to do that in a pseudo-random way where we allow random number generators to go off and do their own things, or autonomous agents to do their own things, but to design a system that allowed us to then get our hands in and control that variation. So the slide I'm showing here is the tool that we use, which is a standard audio production tool, but within it we put an extra dial, and that's the birdie dial is the dial that you use to control the variation, so you can choose between this vast array of variations within a composition. So it's very much about not just the end product, but the process that leads to that, the creative act. And partly as a result of that project, and clearly related to the first project I showed, we were lucky to get commissioned by Aphex, being the well-known electronic artist, to produce some software for one of his performances. And his idea was he wanted to control an entire orchestra. He wanted to improvise with the orchestra as his instrument, which is slightly... It's his style. If you know his work, that's the kind of thing you'd expect him to want to do, very controlling. So we produced the control system that would allow him to do that, to just using a simple bank of MIDI controls to make this whole orchestra do things. And that was a design issue to get all those things together into a single control, to collapse those into something you could operate. So back over to Miriam.
During the kind of initial preliminary stages, we were trying to work out how to combine sound and movement in a meaningful way. And at the time I was composing little melodies in MIDI and fooling around with that. And I went along to drop my 3-year-old to his daycare, and the teacher was showing him one of those music boxes that winds up. And it was like, boom, inspiration hit, and I realised that the music box kind of embodies a lot of what we were trying to get at. it's based, obviously, as you know, on the speed of playback. So that became quite an important... I'll just stop that now. So yeah, the speed of playback became a really important element of the way that the sound was designed in the interactive component. And I also like this kind of connection it has with that history of music boxes and the player piano, which used punch cards and was like really like the first computer in a way, that could store data. We'll jump now to the piece. This is a mock-up of the interactive component. You're seeing this as an aerial shot, so when you're actually in the space, one of those halos would be you, would surround you, and then as you move, the speed of the melody will be playing back at a certain speed based on how you move in the space.
And then at the end of a certain amount of time of interaction in this area, all of the shapes that have been created on the ground basically get released out from the ground and up the building. So that's how we tie together the end product, where we have this entire process running through. So we're tying together different levels of scale of interaction. So you've got the immediate interaction happening on the floor. So, this is top down, so you're looking down on people's heads and they're moving around. And then you've got the long tail of what's happening after that, which is these shapes that are being produced, escaping and doing their own generative thing.
And then what happens is these bubbles, the whole theme of transformation comes through, and these bubbles that the public creates on the ground turn into bubbles that move up the building and become these cranes that fly off the top of the building. So you'll have to come along and hear and see the piece for yourself to see all of this in action, and thanks for kind of trying to imagine what it is we're trying to do here. All will be revealed in a week or so. Which brings us to the last point, which is obviously it's going to be at the AMD building, and the dance that Martin was talking about, there'll be a group of dancers performing with the work on these particular dates, and